I have a confession to make, and I know I'm not the only one who feels like this, but I dislike Magic Find. I dislike the FOMO it invokes. I dislike the opportunity cost of it all. I dislike the build ideas it mangles. I dislike all of it, and yet, the character has over 200% rarity and is probably the best Magic Find character I've ever made, period. So, there's that, I guess. Before we dive into the thick of it all, though, first things first, welcome back, my shielded sons and shielded sisters. The name is Wolf, and if you're just here for the spicy bits on this day 2 of the Trickster update video, you can find them in the description box below, and if you're down there, make sure to hit that like button. It would make me oh so very happy. But yes, why did we change the skill? Why are we Magic Find? Why don't we have a 6-link? Well, it's all Magic Find. The reason is pretty much Magic Find. Lightning Strike of Arcing, the skill we were using before, is very fun. But if you are dropping your 6-link for a rarity because you need Magic Find, you lose a lot of damage. And Lightning Strike needs a lot of damage if you want to do okay on single target. These juiced Exiles can become tankier and more devastating than Uber bosses. So if you don't have enough damage, it's going to take a long time to take them down, and they might end you in the process. Splitting Steel is just a little bit more convenient, also for the reason that Exiles want to give you hugs, and they want to step on you. So if you have a Lightning Strike skill or a Smite skill or something similar where the trick is to double your damage by standing a certain distance away from it, yeah, that's not going to be very reliable if they are trying to hug you and step on you, right? Now, Splitting Steel wants them to step on you, because then you can do the maximized overlapping shotgunning damage. So it's a little bit more convenient. And I've played Splitting Steel before last league with a Trickster, and it worked really, really well when we were Uber farming, so I know it was going to do really, really well for damage scaling. Now, the reason why we need to have that 6-link lacking is, of course, Magic Find, because rarity support has to be a thing. And the reason why we have no offensive auras is because we need to be defensive, and we have a Gold Flask. Now, how does the Gold Flask interject our inability to, or inject our inability to have an offensive aura? Well, because we need to run Purity of Elements to have enough juice for our 90% all res, while also buffing our armor at the same time to be able to run Aegis. So we can't run the Bismuth that we would normally run and then a Storm Shroud. So instead we have to run the Gold Flask to get Magic Find up, right? So we have to run Purity of Elements to get 90% all res still, which means we can't run the Haste or the Wrath or both. I do have some plans to maybe run both of them, Purity of Elements and a Wrath or a Haste, so stay tuned for that in a future update. But I kind of figured, so since so many things had changed, it would be wise to give you an update. So let us get into the thick of it as well and go more into depth. So here's my current Trickster. We have leveled up to 95 so far, and as you can see, a lot of gear has been modified since last we spoke. So let us discuss the gear, then the gems, and then the passive tree, right? We still have our ephemeral edge. Maybe one day we can get some attack speed on that. That would be really nice. Or perhaps a fortify, although I prefer the attack speeds considering the things that I do know now. But for now, Resolute Technique is the king and will continue to be mandatory, but the area of effect isn't. So if I could get an attack speed there, well, that would be really, really nice, wouldn't it? Now, what is also really nice, of course, is our Lich's Circlet. As you can see, we have that new craft, rarity of items dropped by slain rare or unique enemies. That is an unveil craft. You can get that by finding an helm unveiled, or a veiled helm by Janus, the Parandas guy, and get that sorted that way. On top of that, we still have our Aegis Aurora. I have not yet found a good, affordable, corrupt, if not double corrupt. So, fingers crossed. We still have our Arcane Focus right here. A mandatory Lucky is always good. Our Chevron is still holding strong. I am thinking about maybe switching the resistance mods to a defensive mod to get more flat energy shield there. That would be really, really nice if I can make enough space with the elemental res, which is what I would have been able to do if I didn't have the Gold Flask. But it is what it is. We have our necrotic armor. It's pretty much still the same. It has been untouched. I don't think I will ever touch it, other than maybe trying to get the 12% physical damage from hits taken as chaos, which is requiring the conflict orbs, which have been very problematic for me. Nimbus, obviously. We have the Warlock gloves. I finally settled on indeed using Splitting Steel. So as you can see, we have a Grand and an Exquisite 2 rage on attack hit. This took me way too many tries to get it. I will not go into detail how much it cost me, but it was a lot. We also have a nice lightning exposure on it as opposed to the spell suppress. This allows me to run Awakened Fork as opposed to the Awakened Lightning penetration, which is very, very nice for Splitting Steel because of how Awakened Fork actually works with Splitting Steel. It gives us better clear and actually, if it goes well, better single target too, weirdly enough. On top of that, as you can see, everything else beyond that is pretty much the same other than the all attributes craft. We have enough, just enough strength right now to be able to actually go with the all attribute craft for more intellect. Otherwise, I would have just made this a pure, straight up strength craft. If I didn't need strength at all, I would have gone with a spell suppress craft. But since we do need strength, it is what it is. Mage Blood, untouched, unfazed. Our boots, untouched, unfazed. As you can see, we did update the implicits to greater and grand. We're not using action speed because we have the Trickster mod that a lot of people forget. We still have the spell suppress craft. As always, it is what it is. In terms of our flasks, though, they have changed significantly. We have a pure rarity flask here. I believe this flask by itself gives us close to 110, 113 rarity by itself, so it's mandatory. We have a silver flask with stun immunity, an armor flask with more armor, and then we also have resistances with the resistance flask that will help us trying to get the max all res with melding, right? So yes, we have that in terms of gear. Now the gems have been mostly unchanged. We have Molten Shell, Sigil of Power, and Cast when damage taken, purely defensive with a little bit of offense on the Sigil of Power. We also have the Frost Blink and Precision. Precision is here because of the Watcher's Eye. This may be removed in the future. And I might actually use this blue slot for an extra aura if I can get my Plan of the Ground for a future update. For maybe another offensive aura, which would be really nice. Otherwise, a defensive aura. That could also work really, really well. We'll see how it turns out. On top of that, we have our usual suspect, Enhance, Mark on Hit, Sniper's Mark, finally flipped that successfully, as well as an Inspirational Support, which has also successfully been flipped. We have the item Rarity, 2023 for 70. You can also go 2120 for 70, depending on which ones are cheaper, so keep an eye on that. Yeah, we're getting 70% rarity from this. We also have Energy Shield Leech, which I still actually have to flip. We have Awakened Fork, that is still in need of leveling. It has been slow going since I've been switching between Lightning Strike of Arc and such. Lots of changes on the passive tree, but not on the ascendancy. As you can see, we still have Polymath, One Step Ahead, Soul Drinker, Spellbreaker. If you don't mind One Step Ahead, you could probably unspec this, genuinely spec in Spellbreaker, drop the Flame Flesh, which would give you a double jewel slot back, or you could maybe buy the Born in Shadows one if you want more tank than what we have right here. Born in Shadows is really nice. It's 15% DR from enemies that are blinded, and pretty much anything that's near you or gets hit by you will be blinded. It's a very powerful DR system, and it's not that expensive, all things considered. Something to chew on. But yes, we have some tattoos right here for Spell Suppressed. We are officially and truly Spell Suppressed capped right now. As you can see, 100%. We weren't that last time. As a result of Lucky, we were, but as you can see, we are no longer using Lucky, and we have 100%, which is very nice. So more Spell Suppressed tattoos across the board. We still have the same Watcher's Eye, picking up Charisma. I might cut that in the future, who knows. We do have the Forces of Nature with Elemental Mastery. We don't have that much pen at this moment because I'm using a triple cluster, so the inverse is really, really good. Going to the top here, we still have Leech Mastery and Clever Thief. We are picking up this jewel slot very, very soon because we're only level 95. We have plenty of points left. We also have Soul Thief and Evasion Mastery. Polymap scaling is getting out of control. Ghost Reaver, very good. Energy Shield Mastery for more energy shield from our helm, which is quite the boon. Imagine if we had like a 30% Hyper Lich Circlet. Can you imagine? That'd be wild. Written in Blood mandatory because of the energy shield and the much needed strength. Influence, I may drop that as well. I have some ideas in mind. Don't worry about it. It's all going to be okay. Chaos Inoculation. And our third cluster, which is a Veteran Defender with Feed the Fury. This will help us with all res and all attributes. And a little bit of defenses from our shield. Very, very good. On top of that, we have the Forbidden Flesh Spellbreaker, as you can see. The reason why we went Spellbreaker is because the travel node here gives us Energy Shield recharge, and we can't recharge as a result of Chevron on the left ring slot, but also Ghost Reaver, right? If I did not have Chevron and Ghost Reaver, I probably would have spec'd into this node manually, and then I probably would have... No, I probably would have done the same thing. I might have unspec'd the one step ahead and actually picked up a different Flame Flesh Jewel, like Born in Shadows, for example, if I wanted even more tank, which I might still do, I don't know. They seem very spicy for defense. It's a lot of DR. Anyway, we have another cluster right here for a lot of value. Prodigious Defense. This is a preemptive change for a future plan I have, because I have a plan to maybe drop Versatile Combatant and actually get pure spell block and pure attack block 75-75 as opposed to the current 65-65 as it stands right now. I'm also using a different mastery right here. As you can see, 2% increased attack damage per 75 armor and evasion, which allows us to get a bit more damage, which is made possible as a result of that prodigious defense. But if I didn't want that, I could have just gone with another Veteran Defender, which would have given me even more strength. And then I could have gone Spell Suppress in the glove, and then I would have saved myself not one, not two, but 3 tattoos, and I would have been able to tattoo some other stuff. Maybe I'll do that. I don't know. It depends on how things end up. We have the changes, we have the possibility, we have the technology. We're using a blood corrupted, or corrupted blood cannot be inflicted jewel on you here. Triple attack speed. I really wish this had some energy shields, but it is what it is. I can't complain with a triple mod and an elemental pen. That's pretty good. We also have melding of the flesh. I wish this was slightly better. Minus 74 is pretty high, but it is what I hit, so it is what it's going to be. We do have our increased attack speeds per enemy in close range because we are very attack speed starved. With the removal of attack speed on flasks themselves, anything that increases your attack speed is really, really valuable. It's one of the reasons I went with the guaranteed 8% base value increase of action speed. But yes, once I can sort out my attack speed in different ways, I might go monsters cannot block your attacks, just so I don't have to worry about any of those mods kind of gimping my damage. Because every mastery that is unique that we pick up will of course scale us more damage. As it states, 3% more damage for each different type of mastery. So getting those masteries is very, very tasty. Speaking of masteries that are tasty, we have a Reservation Mastery as well. 10% increased effect is just very, very powerful. And the more auras we have, the more valuable that becomes. The Reservation Mastery 8% is also pretty good, but 10% increased effect will also increase our defenses. And since this is a character set for defense right now, that's very important. We have some additional spell suppress, as you can see. Very, very good. More damage as well for 1 point as a result of our Ascendancy. Survivalist. This gives us the 90% all res. I could maybe drop these 3 nodes and maybe do something else with them if I had a different Watcher's Eye. Because we have Purity of Elements, and I believe there's a Watcher's Eye that gives you max res if you have Purity of Elements, but who knows. So we could cut this, but it is also additional elemental resistances as well as energy shield and evasion is more armor. So it's a very valuable thing. Plus the evasion mastery, of course, because we have a lot of evasion of our actual armor. So I don't think I want to. On top of that, we have the Light of Meaning, some Thrill of Battle with mana reservation. We're still using the Sword Mastery for Frenzy Charge generation. One of the things that I want to do is find a way to get access to Expert Hunter so that we can get the Mastery of Mark, which allows us to get Frenzy Charges based on our marked enemies, which will give us a far greater mastery for Frenzy Charge generation than our Sword Mastery does. But it's just something to consider. We could just switch it up if we have 3 more points, which we might do, because we have 5 more levels to go. So maybe that's 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5 Expert Hunter. Switch the Mastery. Maybe that's it. But then we're missing out on this basic jewel socket down here. There's a lot of things we have to test still. Veteran Defender, Feed the Fury on our 3rd cluster. As you can see, max cold res, attack speed, damage, energy shield. As you can see, cold res, max energy shield, attack speed. I should divine those, but I don't want to divine them unless I had a 4 mod. So I'm still trying to craft 4 mods, but yeah, hopefully we can hit some block. That would open up some stuff that would be very interesting, or maybe some more attack speed. That'd be really, really nice, or at least not a dead mod. 10% damage is a little lackluster, and crit doesn't do anything because we can't crit. We also still have deflection with the endurance charges occasionally, spell block scaling, iron reflexes, versatile combatant. We also have Tattoo of the Velico Shield Bearer to cap us out without having to use a defensive mastery. On shield mastery, we can actually use the offensive one for a little bit more damage. And as you can see, we do have a lot of dex nodes available and a lot of excess dex. So I will tattoo those, probably with mark effect. Once I have spec'd into Expert Hunter, so I can get maybe 50% more, or maybe even 100% more, although that might be pushing it. I definitely will go for 50% more, in addition to these 4, together with Expert Hunter. But we'll see how it works out. Maybe I'll just get 50%, I won't spec into Expert Hunter, take the 2 jewel slots, and go from there. That might be a really, really good option. Who knows? But yes, increasing our mark would be very powerful because it's increased damage taken from projectiles. And we are projectiles. Specifically explosive projectiles, I guess, due to the way the splitting steel shotguns. But that's neither here nor there. That's the current tree as it stands. So thank you all so much for watching. If you are following along, keep an eye out. I will be changing things. Check out the stream. Leave a like, leave a comment. I would appreciate it. And I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much. Have a good night. I'm out.